have a hard stop at 4:15. So first of all, very quickly, my name is Mike Ritchie. I work for HYA, Hazard Agenda T and Associates. We are assisting the board with the superintendent search. You obviously know we're down to our final 3 candidates. This is your time to weigh in, ask questions, and then give the board feedback. So what I handed out was the QR codes. So when each of the finalists are done, if you want to scan the code, and then you can give the board feedback. The board will not see your name, they will not see your email. What we're going to ask you to do, there's a box you can check. It says, are you a staff member, are you a student, are you a parent? It's really important to identify the group you're in because the board is going to look for themes from the different groups. There's only 2 questions on here, okay? So you'll see it once you scan it. So very easy, but note the deadline. We shut the link off 6 p.m. on Saturday, April 5th. It will be shut off. So you must get your responses in by then. With that said, Ron is going to take a couple minutes, introduce himself, and then the floor is yours. You can ask questions. I will kind of facilitate. I'll let you ask pretty much any question you want as long as we're legal and it's a appropriate question. If not, I'm going to have to just stop you and say you can't ask that question. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ron Rivard. I am thoroughly excited about the opportunity to potentially serve as the next superintendent here in Ripon. And the first thing that I'd like to do is recognize and thank all of you for taking time away from your families to be here. So I appreciate that very, very much. My family is important to me. So the fact that you're here shows that you're very much dedicated and committed to the school district. So thank you for doing that. A little bit about my background. This is my 28th year in education, my 23rd year in administration. I've had experiences all the way to K-12. I've been a building principal at an elementary school, building principal or associate principal at a middle school, associate principal at a high school. I've had district level leadership positions as a curriculum director and assistant superintendent before in previous districts. My current placement right now, I'm the curriculum director and principal at Randall Consolidated School. It's in western Kenosha County. And I can tell you I'm one of those fortunate people that picked a career that absolutely matches something that I'm passionate about. So in 28 years, I've never once thought about doing anything other than work with kids. And I think just for all of you, often a question is, so why did you apply or why do you want to be here in Ripon? And I think there's 2 answers to that, truthfully. The why did I apply? I can speak to the tradition of academic excellence. I can speak to the improvement and the trends in your data and the places that you're poised to go. That's the initial attraction as a person who hadn't spent a decent amount of time in Ripon before. What I can tell you from Saturday, having the first round of interviews and having some time to spend in the city, and then coming here last night and staying last night, and then being here today, Watson Street is an amazing place. It just is. It's unlike anything that I've ever experienced in any place that I've ever lived. And as a person who is contemplating wanting to work here or not, that's important to me because I want to live in the community that I work. Because I think there's nothing more powerful than serving the community that you live. So just a couple of things about me, and excited to be here and excited to talk with all of you. So happy to answer the questions that you have.
Who's going first?
Amy, awesome. All right.
Can you tell us about a time where you had to lead in a crisis or uncertainty, and how did you handle it?
A crisis or uncertainty? Sure. We had a situation pop up at our school where we had found. I'm trying to protect the innocent as I say this. So we had a situation where we found a live round of ammunition in school. Wasn't attached to anybody, and it was in a classroom. So we had to act quickly and act deliberately to make sure that everybody was safe. And we So I pulled our safety team of people together. We have a school resource officer in our building. We involved the police department and did a quick analysis of what we knew, and were able to actually identify a situation and find a safe resolution without having to go to a lockdown situation, without having to put anybody else at risk. So I know I'm not giving you a ton of detail, it's because I can't. But I would say that was a very recent crisis situation. And I think what's most important in those situations is not working in isolation. Working in a silo does nobody well. So bringing our team of people together actually led us in a direction where we could find out some really critical information, because that's what someone on the team was privy to. So acting alone doesn't help you in that kind of situation at all. So I'd say, what's my approach? My approach is always to bring a team of people together and to leverage the strengths and knowledge of that team to come to the best decision that we could possibly make. So appreciate the question. Yes, go ahead.
As budgets continue to decrease over the years, where do you see the relevance of like the CTE department at the high school and other electives at the high school in the grand scheme of like graduation and future classes are?
Sure. Budgets are continuing to be tight everywhere, so I appreciate the acknowledgement of that. And I think CTE was the first piece that you talked about. I think, so CTE specifically, right now there's a huge need for skilled trades people in the workforce. My son is one of them. I'm very proud of him. He's a carpentry apprentice, and had he not had those experiences in high school, he wouldn't have been able to find his passion in his career. So in terms of what do I value? I think absolutely you want to value anything that gives kids a well-rounded education, for sure, and that's what CTE or the electives do. Absolutely, the arts, the musical, all of those things are extremely important, and it's unfair to say one is more important than the other, just from a belief side of things. And where I stand would be to try to defend as many of those things and avoid getting to a situation where we have to make a really difficult decision because of funding. Sadly, the best decisions to make around tight budgets are those that are the furthest away from kids, not the ones that are really close and touch them. So, yeah, thank you. Great question.
School superintendent's going to have a lot of hats they have to wear. Talk a little bit about your background, whether it's school finance, curriculum, and assessment, special education, all the different things you have to do. Where are your most important experiences? And then in those areas where you aren't so experienced, how do you work with the current staff to make sure that the school district operates smoothly?
Understood. Fantastic question. So my background, I would say I have the most experience in curriculum assessment and instruction, and then a close second in special education, because often those work in tandem. So I've been a curriculum director before. That's my current. I'm in a dual role at the currently as a curriculum director and principal. So I work a lot with staff development, doing different things just to try to help make sure we're innovative on the cutting edge of different things. So those hats are the ones that I wear primarily. I would say in recent years, because Randall is a one-school district, I've gotten a lot more experience on the fiscal side. So working in developing our annual budget, talking about how do we move forward, and it's really for us, it's about examining priorities and making sure that they're aligned to the strategic plan, to our core values and beliefs and things that the community gives us feedback on. So it's really taking a step in the direction to make sure that our values are aligned with the needs of the community and our kids, And then fiscally, making decisions that might be difficult, right? There's always competing priorities. It's hard to say what is more important than something else. So it's always coming back to the values and the feedback from the team, or from the team and the community, I should say. And then the second part of your question, again?
I think it had to do with, in those areas where you don't feel you have the strength, how do you
How
work
I
with the staff?
lean on the team. So I kind of said this before about the crisis question. It's always important to lean on other members of the team that have an area of expertise on the business side of things and the historical landscape of Ripon and knowing what decisions have been made. I know there have been a number of referenda that have passed, the last 3 that I could see from what I could find online. And how do you, having that historical perspective to understand the processes that were in place to gather information and do that, that is internal expertise that's here that I need to listen to. And I've said this once today, I believe my grandfather's saying would be, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them proportionately. And I think that's just the way to do it, is because I don't know the context of Ripon well yet, but I would do that by digging in and being an active listener, and then not being afraid to reach out for help in an area where I might not have the working expertise on, and rely on the team that's around me, or even reach out to other mentors that I've had in my past that are sitting superintendents now. So I think it's, the best way I can sum it up would be being humble enough to know that it's important to ask the right question, to not always think you have the right answer. So thank you for the questions.
Have you had a leadership role in a referendum?
Yeah, actually, I'm proud to say 2 years ago at Randall, we brought forward 2 referendum questions. One was a capital question and the other was operational, and we were able to pass both of them. So it was a great learning experience for me and an opportunity to engage with the community, give tours, answer questions. We created some videos, different things. I think in that regard, what I learned through that process is it's most important to just provide as much information as possible so people can make the best possible decision and the most informed decision. So, yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So administrators, whether they're like a district level administrator, like a superintendent, or
Sure.
a building administrator, there's this balance, right? You have to have a vision, sort of a philosophical vision for education and for your people and your staff and your students. Then there's the business side of it too, where you have to manage stuff. So on that spectrum, where do you think you fall, and like what experiences have you had that sort of make you fall more on the business side of things, as opposed to like the vision and like where's the district headed? Like, are you more businessy or more philosophical? And you can't say 50-50.
You're reading that. No, so where do I see myself? So I appreciate the question. To make a stand, I see myself more on the strategic where are we heading side. And then once that is there and we know, okay, this makes here's our direction, this is our vision, here's where we're headed, then I think all of the business decisions truly just tend to fall in line with that. So establishing the values and the vision and what's important, then the business part is also strategic, I would say, and it's how do you navigate to make sure that you can achieve all the goals that you said you wanted to achieve with the fiscal constraints that you have. So I would step on the visionary side of that line for sure to say that's probably more of where I'm thinking, but it's not turning a blind eye to the fiscal side, because you can't run a program that you can't continue to fund, or you can't start a group that you don't have the money to start the group for. So they're linked, but I would probably lean more so to the visionary side of things, while obviously having to, you have to understand what the budget constraints are, and make sure that the vision that you're working on is achievable and doable and affordable. So, sorry for the ambiguous ending, but yeah, I would say I'm more on the forward-thinking and visionary side of that.
So mine kind of goes along with that because it
Okay.
is one of our core values to be an innovative district. It's one of the things that keeps me here. I really am proud to be a part of the staff here. But how we support staff who wants to try new things and be innovative and cutting edge, as you said.
I think the best way to support all staff or any staff member is to model the same thing. Risk-taking is not comfortable if you are worried that you're going to be judged for it, or that something is going to be done in an evaluative way because you took a chance and it didn't work out. So I think for me, it's taking a step out on those small limbs myself and being able to say, hey, it's okay to try. And it's okay if it doesn't work out, because for me, it's also about continuous improvement. And continuous improvement doesn't happen because you're afraid to take chances. It happens when you take chances. And then you learn from what doesn't work. There's actually, I'd say there's more to learn from what doesn't work than playing it safe and doing something that you know is going to be okay, but might not give you the gains that you're looking for that kids deserve, quite honestly. So, in short, modeling that risk-taking myself and showing that it's okay, and being just really transparent if it doesn't, because the worst decision is no decision, right? I know I'm going to make some decisions that are unpopular or that just are not that good, but I think you have to own the not good and then learn from it, and that helps, I would hope, help to show you that it's okay to do as a teacher as well. Does that make sense? Thank you. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of sick, so I hope
That's okay. Thank you for cutting it out.
So, building off again these core values of our district, one of that being collaboration, how do you feel in a way or in ways, they're kind of on the spot here.
That's okay.
But how do you feel that you can support out of school time programs within the district, such as like within an after school program?
So within the context of collaboration?
Yeah, so looking at collaboration, kind of melding the daytime school as well as those out of school time programs.
Got it. So we're talking about Brave?
Yep.
Got it. So how would I support the collaboration there? I think it would probably, I would ask a question. Sorry to ask a question about a question, but it would be, how often do you get an opportunity to have those collaborative conversations? And if they're happening, are you getting enough out of them? And if you aren't, what can we do to help? And if those conversations aren't happening, how do we help create an avenue for those conversations to happen on a regular basis, rather than hey, the beginning of the school year is starting, let's talk and make sure everything is set up for your room, and then at the end of the year, hey, hand in your keys. Do you know what I think it's just making connections deliberately and regularly, because having those conversations help both of us mutually. So I hope that helps a little bit. Yes, Roger.
It sounds like you're heavy on teamwork and communication.
Yes, sir.
And with that in mind, knowing that there were access situations with prior superintendent, how will you try to overcome that in your position?
Access meaning just limited?
Accessibility.
Accessibility?
Ease of talking to the.
Got it. I guess I like to think that I have an open door policy. Now, it's hard to have 5,000 conversations, right? Like, I understand that part, so there's a limit, there's a little bit of a limiting factor. But I think, ultimately, I would prefer face-to-face, right? Especially in a situation that might have some animosity or there's something tense, sitting elbow to elbow or eye to eye is just way better than something that is electronic, because electronic so much can get interpreted so many different ways that may not even be on the table, but it can create a situation to be worse. So I would want to avail myself as much as humanly possible, especially in those situations. It's always a challenge, so I can say, I might not be able to meet today, but can we meet tomorrow? So I think it's always just about finding the time or making the time, because if you avoiding the situation only makes it worse. So I would want to have those conversations right away. And I know you talked about accessibility. A superintendent's job isn't, it's not 8 to 4, right? It's, are you awake? Yep. Okay, you're working. And I understand that too, right? And living in the community, there'll be a lot more opportunity for those interactions as well. Which I also think in the long run builds credibility, just in general. Because as an unknown person who hasn't lived in Ripon, I completely recognize the fact that there's a feeling, there'd be a feeling out period, right? So we don't know who this guy is. Let's increase the opportunity for me to get to know you and vice versa. Yeah, no problem. Great question. Yes.
Ripon has a history of a lot of charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, I'm a parent for 3 kids who are in the virtual charter school, Odyssey.
Yeah.
So just could you speak a little bit to your experience with charter schools?
So I worked in the school district of Waukesha, and E-Achieve was a charter school, similar to Odyssey. So I've had experience that way. There was also in the school district of Waukesha, there was the Flight Academy, which also was a school within a school. And so not official charter, but, and then at Randall where we're at, it's not a charter, but we created a new project-based learning pathway for students. So I would say those are the primary experiences that I've had, and what I know about Odyssey, which is very impressive, is that you implemented before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic happened, you were able to adjust, so it was a very visionary move, and so kudos to everyone behind that decision. And then even after, now coming out of the pandemic, your numbers are still high. So that speaks hugely to the quality of education that students are getting in Odyssey. So I think that it's obviously an identified need that's around here. So I think it's just a great opportunity for kids because they can when I worked and supported E-Achieve in Waukesha, we had students that could do some amazing things because they were able to learn remotely. We had student actors that would get to travel where they wouldn't ever have that opportunity, and they can still keep up with their studies. So I think it's just a neat opportunity. Yeah. Does that sound?
We have 5 minutes left. Actually, about 3, because we can give a closing statement. So 1 or 2 more questions.
Sure.
What do you think is going to be your biggest challenge?
Getting to know the Ripon way, right? And because I start behind, and I'm going to need to accelerate that learning right away. Because I don't think saying I'm not sure I'll get back to you on that, that's not gonna fly. And for me, I'm not good at not being good, and I don't think it would fly for the community either. The standards are too high, and you don't need to go backwards for the benefit of a superintendent. That it should be the opposite. It should be like, all right, bring me along, catch me up. All right, here's what we need to do. Thank you.
1 more question.
Rusty?
There you go.
Yes.
How do you initially plan, say that you're told you got the job?
Got it.
What is your first plan, how you're gonna build those relationships with families, staff, the community?
I'm going to try to organize as many opportunities to be able to listen and learn from all of you as possible. So if I found out, so our last interview with the board is on Monday, if I I would see my job not starting July 1st. It would start Tuesday, right? Like just, okay, let's get going and figure out how I can have some more time to be able to interact and learn and understand, and probably would do a survey of sorts to try to understand some themes about what you're looking for and what you think the challenges are, et cetera, et cetera. And then the relationship piece is really, I would want to spend as much time as I could visiting. I know I came and visited the schools today, but maybe coordinate on a staff meeting day so there could be some more interaction. So I'm not an unknown, or I should say, less of an unknown entity. Because oftentimes, I think in an interview situation for sure, there's a lot of questions that are about process and background and those kinds of things, and not, and it's okay. There's just not a lot of opportunity to get to know someone on a little bit more personal level, and I think that's critical, and especially from everything that I have experienced in Ripon, that's huge, right? To know the people that you work with and to know what they expect and who they are and how they work is mutually beneficial. So those would be a couple of steps right away. Thank you.
Okay, closing comments.
Wow, thank you again for your time and air guitar was not part of my closing comments. Let me tell you. I could have been, but I didn't have enough advance notice. No, I truly, thank you so much for your support of the school district. That's why you're here. I understand that. I would love nothing more than to have the opportunity to be able to serve and partner with all of you. So thank you so much for everything. And hopefully this isn't the last time that I get to see you. So thank you. Yes, thank you.
A 2-minute break. Don't forget about the QR code and a little hint for us older people. I had the kids this afternoon, and of course they're on their phones, no problem. So what I always do is just scan the code and email it to your email address. Go to your computer and type it in. It's a little bit easier. It really is. There's 2 questions we're asking you. The questions for each of them would be, what strengths do you feel so-and-so would bring to the district? And then what would concern you, or what worries do you have if this person was here? So those are the 2 themes the board's looking for. And you can make as many comments as you want. Great turnout. So yes, thank you guys for being here.
Yes, it is.
Okay, here is our second candidate. Again, you asked great questions the first time. If you want to repeat those questions, that's awesome. It's actually easier to compare the candidates if you ask the same questions and you give the feedback. But you can ask different questions. So you don't have to ask the exact same questions, but it's helpful to kind of narrow it down when you're doing your surveys. So anyway, they're going to take 3 to 5 minutes to introduce yourself, and then they're going to ask outstanding questions, and you can give a closing statement, and you have to stick for 30 minutes.
And you're gonna be my time.
I am,
Give me a warning.
yes.
Okay. All right, good evening, afternoon, everybody. What a great crowd here tonight. I'm Jessica Johnson. I am currently a superintendent in a district that is 1,000 kids smaller than this district. I am a superintendent, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm an adjunct professor at Victoria University. I'm also an author. I've co-authored 3 books for educators, so I get really passionate about education and I love to be able to help and serve other people. And I am really excited about the opportunity to come to Ripon and serve in this community. I'm sure one of the questions would probably be why Ripon, so I will just jump into that and tell you. When I came to my current district 17 years ago, as an elementary principal, it was really important to me at that time that I lived and served in the same community that my young children were going to attend school, because I knew that I was going to be spending a lot of evenings at school, and that way my family could be a part of all of those evening activities that I attended. My own husband can tell you that most of our date nights over the years have involved concession stand popcorn and sporting events, or both of us working side by side, holding the chain gang signs at the football game, or running a wrestling tournament together. So now that my children are older, and I'll fill in that gap there for you, I served as elementary principal for 11 years, and then I graduated up following my oldest. I didn't intend to follow him, there were other reasons. I became a middle school and high school principal in the same district, and then transitioned into the superintendency when my previous superintendent was retiring. Now I have an adult son and a son in high school, and so the priorities have changed that we don't spend as much time together in the evenings anymore at school, and so I have the opportunity to look for a new professional growth opportunity for myself and be able to apply my strengths to. And I have always heard good things about Ripon. I've been in this high school gym many times over the years for wrestling, and actually I didn't recall it until I went on the tour today. I've been in this building to tour to see the great new renovations that happened here, because some of the work that happened here for the collaborative spaces and the skylights, that informed the work that happened in my current district 4 years ago. So I've been here multiple times, and when this position opened up, I started researching, and I could not find a reason not to apply. And after I applied and had the conversation with the consultant, I dug deeper and kept finding great things. Incredible programs and strong academics in place here, really dedicated people. In fact, when I was searching the staff directory to see if I knew anybody, I found somebody that I didn't know worked here. I worked together with her previously, and I called her to say, what are you doing in Ripon? And she explained to me how she started dipping her toes into Ripon and was here part-time, fell in love, and is here full-time. And so hearing that, stories like that, just made me want to come be a part of this. In addition, I cannot believe the incredible support of this community. And I told some of the staff earlier today that I met with who have been here for a long time, and I told the high school students that were sitting here, because I know many of them have been here a long time. If you've been here a long time, you might not realize how unique this place is, and so you should know that there are really great things that are here. And so I'm excited at the opportunity to come and serve in this school district and be a great member of this community, along with everything that you have here. All right, who's first?
Should be easier the second time. Perfect, there you go. Thank you.
Can you tell us about a time when you had to leave during a crisis or uncertainty, and how did you handle it?
Well, in 17 years of administration, there's been a couple. I think what comes to mind is any time that there has been a possible school threat. Usually they come in reports from another student or the Speak Up, Speak Out app of anonymous threat, and so it's right away. You know, whether it's something during the day, do we need to go into lockdown, or if it was something at night of contacting the police right away to determine, is this credible, do we need to cancel school? Always involves, investigating. That first of all, identifying, are we safe to be in school or not? If we are going to be in school, what procedures are going to be in place to make sure that student is not going to be here if there was a possible threat? So communicating along the way with families to let families know an anonymous threat was reported. It's been determined that it's safe. Whatever whatever could be shared with parents at that time. And then communicating with the police department, administration, staff, determining following steps that need to happen after that. Fortunately, I've never, in any of those situations I'm thinking of, there never was anything that resulted, which is a great thing, and they were always found to not be an actual credible threat. They're usually just, in my experience, have been something that a student just said or posted on social media. But along those lines are just making sure that we have processes in place so that if something like that happens, we, just like you do in a fire drill, when the fire drill goes off, you go right to the door. When a possible threat happens, we've got protocols in place that we follow to make sure that students are safe, and then also the follow-up communication with parents and staff, and also debrief of looking at, is there anything that we should have done differently to inform our practices moving forward.
In the ever future of times with decreasing budgets, where do you see the role of CTE and electives at the high school level?
CTE is so important because we're preparing kids for life after high school. And so CTE, for those if you don't know what that is, career and technical education, those are the courses in high school that kids get to explore what they're interested, or maybe even what they're not interested in. Students may take a course that they identify, I'm not interested in this, and that's a great thing to narrow out a possible career before they spend money in college on that. Or it could be courses that they're digging deeper in, and they realize that it's a passion, and they take every class option that you have in CTE, and then go even deeper into CTSOs, FBLA, FFA, Skills USA, any of those opportunities where they are applying their skills, they're challenging themselves, they're competing against others, and building great leadership skills that are going to set them up for success after high school.
As a school superintendent, you're going to have to wear many hats, as you are currently in your position now. You're going to have strengths and maybe experiences in some areas that are better than others. How do you balance working, whether it's curriculum, whether it's professional development for your staff, human resources, the buildings and grounds, special ed, all the different areas. Where are your strengths, and in those areas where you maybe don't have a lot of experience, how do you incorporate current staff into working to make sure that we're doing a good job in all areas?
That's a great question. So currently, being in a smaller district, I do wear multiple hats. In addition to being superintendent, we don't have a business manager, we have a comptroller, so I serve the role of the budget forecasting and making those decisions. I am HR as well. I am the district assessment and curriculum coordinator. I oversee our multilingual learners programs. I write their individual learning plans. I run our social media and communications. I oversee our educator effectiveness. I help, I don't lead as much professional development with our staff. I work with my principals to identify what professional development do we need. Sometimes I do lead some of that professional development, and also run our new teachers and mentors program. So I do a few things. I will not say I'm an expert in every one of those areas. It's hard to be an expert when you have to have your hands in all of those areas. I shared this with the teams I met with this morning, coming into a bigger district where there are people who do those roles, I'm really excited about. Really excited about, like that lady right now doing state testing how can I make sure that I'm being a resource and supportive to you and not stepping on your toes? Because you've got a lot of great people here who are experts at their jobs, and so my role is just to oversee that and support them and make sure that they have the resources that they need to do their job. The other two areas you mentioned that I don't do that job, building and grounds, that would be my weakest area. When my current building and grounds director talks to me about some issues, sometimes I'm Googling the words that he's saying, because I didn't know what an ethos is, but now I do, and I know we have a few of them that leak. So it's asking questions and learning from them and finding out what do they need to be able to do their job, because I am not going to be able to help fix the ethos problem. And the other one would be Director of Special Education. Well, I started out my career in teaching special education. I don't hold that license. I don't have the Director of Special Education certification. So again, it's just how can I support you? I think along with that is that I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach. So I take pride in working with individuals one-on-one, identifying what their strengths are and helping them to use those strengths to move further. And so I don't have to be an expert in what their job is, but I can certainly help them use their strengths to do what they do best.
What did you learn about being a superintendent that you didn't know before you got the job? What did you learn on the job?
What did I learn on the job?
That surprised you.
Most of it. So I'm going to be honest, when I was a principal, I had no desire ever to be a superintendent. And the same is true, I never wanted to be a principal. In both cases, I had somebody who saw skills in me that I didn't know or didn't want to have to move forward, and they nudged and encouraged me of that. The superintendent before me started sharing with me, here are things that I'm working on, and I would often joke and say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to worry about the new copy machine lease. So it was our running joke of, I don't want to do that. But as she kept nudging me into that, and I saw how I love being a principal and the impact that you can have on so many students, and I began to see she was right, that being a superintendent can be even more impactful than being a principal, and take pride in the collective impact that we can all have on students together. So I did learn from my superintendent at that time, and then after I took on her role, I continued to learn even more that you just don't know until you're experiencing it.
With the Boys and Girls Club coming to town, how do you see the school district leveraging that as part of, workforce development for getting kids ready for the workforce?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you, I don't know anything about the Boys and Girls Club other than hearing in big cities that they have it, and there's great opportunities for kids. I saw the building today, it looks amazing. I'm going to assume it is another great business opportunity in this community to be able to have partnerships with, to have any of opportunities for kids, whether that's our young kids being a part of whatever happens at the Boys and Girls Club, or are there opportunities for youth apprenticeship for our high school kids? Is it tapping into our high school students who are interested in education and getting them experience working with younger students there? Again, not an expert, but any organization or business in the community is an opportunity for a mutual partnership. I've got the long pause of a teacher.
I practiced this the last time. I'm kind of sick, so I'm sorry. So with one of the core values of this district being collaboration, how do you see, in a way or ways, kind of putting you on the spot, but how do you see this collaboration between the school day programs as well as out-of-school time programs such as the before and after-school program?
Well, there needs to be collaboration. I'm going to tell you, I don't know the specifics of which programs you're talking about, but who are the people who oversee it? there's gotta be collaboration on, what space is being used and how is it being used and, is it a staff member who's running it? Like, all of those kinds of details people need to, be on the same page with. And then also, if there's any student-specific needs or concerns that, if there's individuals that are working there that aren't staff members, that, you know, what are things that, their parents need to make sure that those individuals know. There might be communication of, you know, if something happened before school that staff at school need to know might impact that student's day. There needs to be communication lines ready to go so that, the school and those programs can, together support students.
Do you see yourself as a accessible person, that people can talk to you rather than coming to the office and I'm busy, don't bother you? What kind of
Yeah,
leader are you?
I try to be accessible, but also being wears a lot of hats. I'm not always available. If you were to just drop in, I might not be available. So my email link or my email signature has a link to my calendar that says, do you need to schedule a meeting with me? And it's on there. My office assistant knows that if somebody calls and they're wanting to meet with me, she can go right onto my calendar and schedule that. When it comes to staff in the school district, monthly I send out an email to all staff to remind them that if they want to meet with me for a rounding meeting, here's my calendar link to please schedule that with me. And my staff know that I ask the same 4 questions for those rounding meetings that are about employee engagement. So asking what's going well, do you have what you need to do your job? Is there anything else that your supervisor or I can do to support you? And is there anybody who's been especially helpful to you? And staff also know that they can schedule a meeting with me anytime that they just want to come and talk to me as well. Yeah.
Ripon has had many charter schools. One of them that interests me particularly is Odyssey Virtual, the virtual charter school. And so I'm curious what experience you have with charter schools.
I have none.
None?
I have no charter school experience at all.
Okay.
But I was definitely interested in learning about that. I started reading about Murray Park and Quest, but now they're merging, and it's just really fascinating to learn about. But I think the virtual school option is great because it gives families options, and then that means that if families are looking for virtual school, they're not leaving your district, and then you're not sending your open enrollment dollars somewhere else. So it is a really great benefit to have. I did also notice just on I think it was the Facebook page, or maybe it was the specific page for the virtual school. What stood out to me compared to other virtual schools that I have seen is that there are opportunities for the kids to engage in person, which is different than what I've seen in other virtual schools where they are just virtual and they never have that social connection. So it was really exciting to see that. I know there's got to be more questions. It's not like high school students trying to get out of the last classes of the day.
So you get the phone call that says you have the job. What is your first order of business in trying to build relationships with staff, families, the community?
It is that, and finding the time. I would hope that I would get the call before our spring break. That we had a late spring break this year. That way I could spend some days coming over on my spring break to start getting to do those things, to start getting to meet people. And you know, otherwise then when I do start, it is sending out the communication to be able to let people set up meetings with me that they want to, so I can start getting to know people, digging deeper into everything just so I can learn more about what are those before and after school programs and what all entails the Boys and Girls Club and what else is available in the school and the community, so that I won't become an expert right away, but to be able to get to know everything that's here.
If you
year, what do you think will be your biggest challenge in starting?
I think the biggest challenge for me will just be trying to figure out how to apply the things that I'm passionate about into different school buildings. And I shared this earlier that with the groups I was with this morning. My district is small, so we're all in one building. So I start out every day going around to each building level, greeting kids, greeting staff, telling kids happy birthday if it's their birthday, or giving staff birthday cards. Or I cut out newspaper clippings of high school kids from, whatever they competed in were highlighted in the newspaper. Kids don't know what newspapers are, so it's really Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do that every single day in this district, so I need to figure out how can I be out with the people in a bigger district. So I think that would probably be one of my challenges, along with making sure I know what are the roles that all the people do so that I don't step on toes.
It seems nowadays the bigger the district, the more unexpected things occur, which may involve angry families, angry staff, lawyers, some of those things. You seem to me as someone who's going to lead with positive warmth, catch more flies with honey. How do you handle the situations that get pretty strong and firm? Tell me how you would walk through one of those.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you one of the questions asked today was what's your style of leadership? And my style of leadership depends on the situation. By nature, I'm a servant leadership, and I like to lead with a coach approach and building on people's strengths. But there are times when you need to be more authoritative and assertive, and so it's understanding the situation that I'm in, making sure that I have all of the right information, and identifying what type of leadership is needed in this position or this situation that I'm in. I will say there are a lot of times when whether it's a parent angry at a staff member or two staff members having an issue, there are a lot of times that they both want the same thing, but they're so angry with emotion that they can't see what it is that they're both wanting the same thing. And so being able to help listen with empathy and to understand where each person is coming from to try to get to where is it that we need to go together, because it's usually all in the best interest for the child. And so identifying how is it that we can get there to where we can have the best outcome. I don't like when I have to be assertive, but I will. Especially like if my 14-year-old doesn't get in my van to get to school when I told him this is the time that you leave, and if you're not in there, then you're walking, and I will do it and be the mean mom, but.
You mentioned that you had authored some books. I'm
Yeah.
just curious, what are those books about?
Yeah. So the first one was called Breaking Out of Isolation, and it was about building a professional learning network using social media tools. The biggest one was Twitter. Funny, it's not Twitter anymore, and I'm not even on it. The second one, and so that's about being able to grow from educators anywhere in the world, not just in your own district. The second one was the coach approach to school leadership, and that came from my passion for instructional coaching and being able to merge that with the evaluative hat of a principal. So being able to lead with the approach of coaching people versus just evaluating. And then the third one has a really long title that I might mess up. If you're familiar with the Burgess books, like Teach Like a Pirate, this one is called Balance Like a Pirate, Going Beyond Work-Life Balance to Ignite Passion and Thrive as an Educator. Publishers like you to have a long title. It's sometimes hard to remember. So that one is about this work is hard, and so how do you make sure that you fill your own cup so that you can pour into your students each and every day, and trying to prevent that burnout from happening for educators.
I suppose going off of what you mentioned, there is, like, educator burnout is a very very real thing, and there is always this chance of decent turnover each year when it comes to teachers based off of how the previous year goes. Some teachers going from, let's say, or leaving a profession altogether versus maybe wanting to jump into a different role. How do you, like, what is your vision when it comes to helping promote maybe or support those teachers who maybe want to transition to a different school-based role, such as moving from, let's say, elementary to high school and getting a new certification, or leaving from teaching to maybe enter a different part of the school, such as like the mental health field or something along those lines? What is your
I look at that from the lens of strengths approach, right? Like, what are your strengths and how can they apply elsewhere if you're not feeling it where you're going? And actually, before we started talking about burnout years ago, this is many years ago when I was an elementary principal, probably 12 years ago, I gave my staff in a staff meeting a card, and I said, I want you to write your dream job, like your dream job in this school, even if it's not really a job in our school, like just make it up of what you think would be your dream job. Not that I'm going to give you that dream job, but I'm curious because I wanted to know what people's passions were. And from that, I learned some things about some of our staff members that I didn't know, and that then led to some transitions over the next coming years as positions opened up, of realizing, this first grade teacher is actually interested in 5th grade, or a classroom teacher who was really interested in helping other teachers learn how to integrate technology. And so that teacher, I found ways to carve out time in her day so that she had time to be able to go and work with teachers, and then that led to her pursuing becoming a media specialist and serve as a tech integrationist for our school district. So it all comes to helping identify what are people's strengths, where does their passions lie, and how can we help get them there.
We have time for one more question. Someone has a question.
I don't know if this is a good question. So, what are your priorities? Like, what are your top 3 things that you would like to someday look back on your superintendency and say, okay, I accomplished this thing and I'm really proud of that?
I don't know if it's accomplishing a thing.
Yeah.
It is feeling that I've built relationships and connections and had impact on the people that I work with and supporting students. And I've had that opportunity in the district where I've been of watching kids grow from 4K into adulthood, because some of them have come back to the school I'm in, and I've hired them now after, it makes me feel old, but that's okay. So just, it's having that impact, and or seeing the great things that they do after high school, reaching out to an alum to come and speak back to high school about the great things that they did, and their opportunities started with the work that we did. So it's all about the impact on the people, and that impacts the community too.
Okay. Closing statement. Comments? Go ahead.
All right. Well, I just, I think I started with my closing statement. Now that you say, I'm sorry, I didn't even think about that. That everything that I've continued to learn about this school district and community, I just continue to be more and more impressed, and would absolutely love to immerse myself here in the school and community. I already texted my husband and said, yeah, we look at houses, it looks great here. I would just really be honored to be a part of this. You have great things that are already in place here. I want to help support them, support the people. And the great kids that were in here in the high school meeting today, if you have a high schooler, they ask some really great questions. These are leaders already who are going to do impactful things. And so that's the work that a school district does.
Great. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. See you Monday. I'm sure you realize that they're going through a lot. This is a very tedious, long, lengthy process. They've got one more answer any questions you might have. The rest of the process as well.
That was kind of weird.
Excuse me.
Okay, yeah, I can go if you need me, like last Friday, there's a, that's an all Thursday with fever. Can you go back? Should we go over? No. What are you doing tomorrow? Okay, I'll be there, 8:30, okay. Oh my gosh.
Okay, here is our third finalist. And she will introduce herself, and you can give an opening statement. They're going to ask some great questions, and then you can give a closing statement at the end, and you have 30 minutes. So, go ahead.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming up this evening. I'm honored to be able to meet and greet and share a little bit about myself. I'm Natasha Rao, and I'm honored also to be here. My journey in education started back in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, where I graduated from the University of Port Elizabeth with a bachelor's in education and psychology. So I held a dual major there. I continued into then my studies here in the United States at Cardinal Stretch and achieved my master's in clinical psych and educational leadership there. That then took me I started teaching in Kenosha, at Kenosha Unified School District. I was a psychology teacher, so in the social studies world. And then my family moved to Virginia. And I joined the administration world, first as an assistant principal at the high school in Martinsville. And my responsibility there was discipline. And so, of course, your first job, and it is discipline. And was very successful in that position, actually. Had a student body of 900 students, and was able to reduce the discipline by 30% that first year. And the superintendent at that point said, "We need you somewhere else." And I said, "Sure, I'm here to serve. Where do you need me?" And he sent me to an elementary school. And I had no experience with elementary, and probably 5 years, 3 years of my administrative career was there, working with teachers and collaborating with them. It was a failing elementary school. It was about 500 students, and we turned that school around to be a high-achieving school that was recognized by the Virginia Department of Education. So I thought my career would just continue, and then he came back and he said, "Now I need you to go back to the high school." I said, "Sure, I'm here to serve." And I went back to the high school as the principal. And at that point in time, my family relocated back to Wisconsin for my husband's position at the time. And so I then joined Green Bay Public Schools and served a 2,200 student body for 10 years. Took them out when it was, took them out when it was COVID and brought them back in. And there's a period of time there that I actually had some time away because I had some major surgery. And then I was called to serve at Kohler School District. And I said, "Sure," and I went on to Kohler School District. And I'm currently there as their middle school, high school principal. And during this time, I actually started my superintendent license. And I was always curious when I was a teacher, kind of how it all worked. You know, I came to school, I shut my door at that point in time, and went on teaching, nobody bothered me, and the bell rang, and kids came, and kids left, and I was curious as to how this all happened, which is what led me into administration initially. And I believe I'm at this point in my career where I would like to serve a school system on a larger scale and impact the community at a larger level than I can as a building principal at this point in journey is that regardless of the children we have, the communities we serve in, I have done whatever it takes to do well. So I've left each of the places in a very successful position, and that working with teachers, working with parents and families, I'm very proud and successful. I feel very successful in that leadership. That brings me to Ripon, and I'm excited to be here. I have family in Ripon. I'm very passionate about family, so it brings me back to family. I've driven the road here. I was telling somebody, Douglas Street is a very familiar road to me, but when there's construction in the area, I get lost. My mother-in-law always is saying, Nat, I told you to go here, I told you to go there. Well, when it's construction, I get turned around a little bit. So it brings me back closer to family. The extended family actually moved into Ripon to have their students in the Ripon School District. So it says a lot about the community and how the community values education and the tremendous support and pride that you have in your school system. Additionally, I love the innovation. Your core values of the school district align very strongly with my core values. And so it was very appealing to apply to this position. And my son will join the Ripon College next year, and he'll play soccer there. So I'm thrilled. I'm invested. I want him to do well. I want the school system to do well. So these are the reasons I am here today.
All right, questions?
Well, just because the topic, you just kind of mentioned it, but one of our core values, as you know, is innovation, and that is definitely something that I am most proud of being a part of this staff, is that we really try to go above and beyond as far as that goes, and being innovative and cutting edge. We do take pride in that, and so how would you support and encourage teachers as far as innovation?
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm extremely passionate about is making sure that the students I work with come out on top, right? So that they have every opportunity and advantage to be competitive. So I am very collaborative in bringing voices to the table. My greatest success is in listening, learning, and hearing about things that people are passionate about, that students are interested in, and ensuring that we do get together and we sit around and talk about things that are important to our community and our schools, and that we actually then work to try to implement those things. Being innovative and bringing opportunities to students, right, is probably one of the greatest opportunities we have to make sure that our students are high achieving, because then you get them engaged. And when students are engaged and love what they do, sky's the limit. So I'm a strong proponent of listening to what the interests are of students, of teachers, and being side by side as a leader. I'm definitely a collaborative side-by-side person. I like to empower staff, give them voice, give students voice, to ensure that we're doing the right thing, because at the end of the day, we're here to serve our students and our community and help our staff do that work. Yes.
With the ever decreasing budgets we face now and in the future, where do you see the relevance of CTE classes at the high school and other electives?
I will tell you that I see the relevance of CTE as very important. It's critical in schools and in systems to be sure that we meet the needs of all kids. We've got an array of students. Your children deserve to have the opportunities that each one of them need, not necessarily what we want to offer. But we have to be mindful that every student's strength is not just in academics, right, and doing the traditional learning. So we are called to ensure that we are providing those opportunities for students so that we can engage them, so that they can be successful, because at the end of their academic journey, we are preparing them for whatever their interests are. It may be four-year college, it may be into the workforce, it may be into a youth apprenticeship program, it may be into the military. So we need to be mindful that we should not pigeonhole students. We want to look at our budget. We want to ensure that where we are spending monies, they're well spent, and adjust to ensure that we aren't, much like the innovation, we're not shortchanging our students from opportunities. So I do see a great relevance in CTE, especially in this area as well. Yes.
Can you tell us about a time when you had to leave during a crisis or an uncertainty, and how did you handle it?
I would tell you, I thought COVID was a crisis, because it near killed me, both in my ability to lead and in my health. I was in Mexico at the time, and the associate principal at the school, the 2,200 body school with over 200 staff, called, panicked to say, we've got to shut down schools. And we worked through the process. I'm definitely a supportive leader. I, side by side with her, helped her craft the communication to go out to families. Students took their computers home. We were a one-to-one school. And so we sat together talking about what that communication would look like, what that processing would be, and went ahead and enacted that. And so I believe that in that crisis, it was critical for me to be to reassure the person on the other end that things were going to be okay, right? And so I had to be calm and help somebody else through the process of doing that. It did turn out well. It turned out successfully. We then, obviously, I had to open it back up, but I was back stateside to do that. But I think in those moments, we as leaders need to be sure that we are doing what we need to do to support those that are working with us to ensure that everyone is having success.
Fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, where would you instruct your curriculum director to put the most emphasis on grammar? And the hidden part of my question is, I believe that grammar and reading have a direct correlation.
They do. And so I would think, I was hoping you would say maybe third, but I'll go with fourth. I'll go with fourth grade and say I'd like to put the emphasis on the younger people because at the younger ages, they are learning to read. At the older ages, they're reading to learn. And so it's critical that we do, and that's why when we look at intervention and we look at grammar and we look at the ability to read, and it really needs to happen at those younger grades in preparation for what they need to be able to do when they get to secondary school.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
As a superintendent, you're going to be involved in all aspects of the school district, curriculum assessment, special education, school finance, building and grounds, and many more. Where do you see your strengths, and how do you collaborate with other staff members in areas where you don't have a strength or a lot of experience?
Great. So in my position currently, I wear many hats. And so I do sit at the table with the superintendent to make and have quite a few experiences, right? I would say my strength is in curriculum instruction, safety and security, mentoring of new teachers. I have a broad range of, I also do assessment. And so I work very closely with our current buildings and grounds staff, so with busing and facilities. But my greatest strength, I would have to say, is curriculum instruction and safety and security. Yes, sir.
I'm recognizing you for Ripon Improvement. I have one question in my head if you're technically big district program.
I do feel, I removed myself from that position because I needed to be out of the role for almost 8 weeks, which is 2 months. And for me, I'm a very hands-on leader, and not being able to do that is very concerning. However, I knew I left the building in good hands. So I used that opportunity to recover and to take some time for myself. And it was during that time that I started my superintendent license. And then during that time, I got a call to help out at Kohler. I thought I was only helping, but I'm still there. And so, yes, I do, you know, when you run a school of 2,200 kids for 10 years, it sometimes wears on me. And I didn't realize it at the time. This is not 2,200 kids. It's a larger school system. Well, it is large, but it's not, it's as big as the high school I was running almost, about 1,700 students in the district. But I do believe that it's different work. And so I feel very comfortable and confident that I'm well to do that.
Yes, within the district, one of our core values is that collaboration aspect. With that, how do you feel that, in what way or ways you can promote collaboration between the school day and those programs, as well as the out-of-school time programs, such as the before and after-school program?
Specifically to staff? Who amongst staff?
Staff and students, that community.
Sure. So I think part of it is ensuring that we're working on healthy climate and culture, and ensuring that students, children know that we care about them. So I believe that when students know that you care about them, they will do just about anything. And so collaboration is a result of bringing voices together, and hearing what's going well and what's not going well. And so for me, I love to assemble teams. In my current role, I do exactly that. Because when you don't hear from people, you don't really know what your challenges are or what's going well and what the concerns are. So I believe it's highly critical to assemble those teams, have conversations and dialogue about the things that you need to do or to improve, for the things that are going well. Implement those pieces, make adjustments and tweak them if they're not working, or continue doing what you're doing if they are. And then it's a very cyclical process. I think when people feel that they have an avenue to do that. So for me, creating systems and processes is important, because if people know where to go, that's good. When people don't know where to go, that's a challenge, it's chaotic. So creating some processes and systems for people to know who to go to, how to get their resources met, and to have those met, I think is important.
Can I ask about your job also?
Ripon has had several charter schools. One of the ones that I'm a parent for is the Odyssey Virtual Academy.
Yes.
Could you speak to your experience with charter schools?
You know, I don't have much experience with charter schools, but what I did find interesting when I looked at the school report card, which I have quite a few questions about that, the Odyssey program, is students are doing exceptionally well in the program, and I had a wonderment as to how whatever we are doing in that program, how that translates back into some of the work that we're doing on our other programs or schools, and what curriculum, you know, because it's specifically, is it an individualized curriculum? So I had multiple questions around it. It intrigued me, but I do not have any experiences with charter schools.
Thank you.
Not that I wouldn't be interested in learning about them, because from what I've seen, just even in the project-based learning schools today, you have a lot to be proud of here in Ripon. The elementary school, I was toured by 3 students, and they were phenomenal. They were amazing, sharing what they're doing, how they get to learn, how they go home and speak with their families. They were excited. It was great to see kids that excited about learning.
And then when I went to the K2 school, Barlow, I believe, lots of hugs. You get some great kids, a lot of hugs. One of them asked me to read, and I said, I don't really have a lot of time, but I'd be willing to read, and then I had to leave. But you have a lot to be proud of. But specific to charter schools, that would be an area for me to learn about.
Just wondering if you were speaking to pen.
My pen, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Is that your philosophy?
That is my philosophy, whatever it takes. I have a few of those. My mantra is all means all, right? The work we do is for service for all children. So your child, every one of your children, is an important part of the puzzle for me. And my goal is to do whatever it takes to meet the needs of kids and staff. And I work hard to do that.
Any last questions?
So one of the things that you mentioned earlier was that we talked about when it came to CTE, like not pigeonholing students, and we talked about how one of your values was empowering staff. One of the big things that I know it's been pretty big for the last several years here has been teacher burnout and turnover on staff, not specific to Ripon, but just in general across the nation. And it might not always be because teachers are tired of teaching, or it might be because maybe teachers want to step out of like a classroom role into a different position, such as maybe going into administration, or maybe stepping into like a mental health role within the school, such as like a counselor or a psychologist. How do you, like, what is your stance on maybe helping or like empowering those staff members to pursue maybe that goal that they have within the district?
Right. If you look at my track record, and this is something I really am proud of, my belief is to always give a hand up, right? You want to encourage staff when you see ability for leadership, when you see ability for a staff member to go into a different role. It is our responsibility to encourage them to do that. I don't necessarily want to see them leave us. I do want to see them grow in their own leadership. In my school at Preble, 8 of my staff that either worked under me or as teachers became principals and district office staff. I see that as my role, as a purpose, right? So to help others grow is definitely something I am interested in. But I don't necessarily want them to leave. I'd like them to stay. But if they leave, that's a good thing for them, right? So we can't begrudgingly or hold people back because we don't want to see them. Giving people opportunities, so professional development, strong preparing for professional development, to make sure that our staff are skilled to then serve students, right? And so making those opportunities available to teachers for me is very important. So absolutely.
Last question?
Yes, ma'am.
If you get hired here, what do you think will be your biggest challenge?
I see challenges as opportunities. And so I think just my greatest challenge, always in your first maybe 3 months, is ensuring that you are spending a good portion of your time listening and learning. And sometimes people think, well, what is that person doing? They're not doing too much. I don't see them making any changes but I think my greatest challenge might be the perception that why is she listening and learning and spending so much time bringing voices together? And I would share with you as the community, that definitely is a focus for me. I'm not the type of leader that comes in to just make change to make change. I like to honor what you have in place. I value what has gone before me. And there's generally a reason. So historical context is important. So I think just spending the time, learning all those pieces, listening, and then getting voices together to understand where are we currently, where do we want to go, and how do we get there. So I think just those first few months, just
ensuring that everything I hear and listen to, that I find all the trends and then can put them into momentum.
All right. One more question, if you have one more question before she does the closing statement. Any pressing question? No? No, Sandy? All right, so.
They're tired.
They're tired.
They're tired.
They wanna go
They've
eat.
had 3 sessions of this, right? They want to go eat. So again, I'm honored and thank you very much for being here this evening. I do want you to know that one of my core values is commitment, and I generally stay where I go. You might wonder, well, how long will she be here? Where will she go? Please know that I typically stay unless there's a family having to move somewhere, but health issues. But that is my commitment. My commitment to you as a community is every one of your kids matter. And please know that for me, when I make decisions, it's about children. They're at the center of the work that I do. They're at the center of the work that my team always does. And I have a very open-door policy. If there's something on your mind, if there's something you'd like to see, you're very welcome to come on in and meet with me, right? Or invite me to where you are. I'd be happy to come. I also recognize that the teachers are instrumental in the work that we do. And without them, the teachers and the support staff, we can't do the work. So it's critical for us as a community to come together, because at the end of the day, what you definitely show in what you currently have as a school system, this community values education, and your kids are thriving. Please know I'd love to join that and continue that journey with the community and the staff to create this as a destination. Ripon School District is a destination school district. And I'm honored to be able to even chat with you this evening.
Any other questions for me before you leave? Don't forget about the QR codes. Remember when they close?